So what I'm going to do, basically, we all love the command line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build two modules from scratch. Okay, so right now in my directory, I have, actually, sorry, I'm just going to create demo, cd into demo. So here I have nothing. So let's start. First, we actually need to create the folders in which my modules are going to lie. So I'm going to create, first of all, my source path. The source is, SRC is going to contain all the modules or the source code if you want. Okay, so the convention with module names is that they don't have to, but the convention is to respect the reverse DNS naming. So my first module, I'm going to call it com.example.utils. And then inside it, I'm going to have my package. So the normal package hierarchy, com.example.utils. Yes, sorry, you're right. Okay, that's my first. And then my second one is going to be similar. It's going to be com.example.app. Okay, now let's do this a bit more interactively. Basically, com.example.utils is going to provide a utility class that will do something, and that something is going to be, you give it a string and it will pad zeros to the left of the string. Okay, very simple. App is going to use utils. Okay, so let's start with the module definition file of utils, since utils comes first. So it has to be called module-info.java. There we go. Now, can anyone tell me, in fact, what's going to go in this file? Yes, module definition, but yes. Yes, you can do that, but for now let's keep it simple. Let's just expose it. So that happens via export. It's going to be com.example.utils. Exports. There we go. Smart. So yeah, I made a spelling mistake here. It's exports, in fact, not export. Now that we have our first module info, I'm going to go ahead and create the second one directly. So here, same thing. Sorry. And here, what are we going to put? Requires. Okay, perfect. So now that we have this in place, let's actually write our Java classes. I'm not going to write them from scratch. I have them saved for, well, obvious reasons. So I'm just going to call it utils.java. And here is my utils.java. So basically, as you can see, we give it a string, a minimum length, and a pad character. And if the length of the given string is greater or equal than the minimum length, I just return the string as is. Else, I just pad the character to its left, and I return that string. So, sorry. There we go. Now, for my second class, I'm going to call it app. Basically, app is going to use utils. Here we see that basically all app does, you have to pass to it an argument, which is the string you want to be padded to, and then you just call utils.padStart and you pass 20 and 0. So that's it. Very simple. Okay, perfect. Now we created our two modules, we populated them with the classes. So, we have our modules, we have the code of our modules, now we just need to compile them. So, we're going to use Java C, and before that, I'm just going to create a directory to hold my compiled classes, so I'm going to call it out. And then I'm going to go Java C minus D is for the where do I want the destination of my compiled classes to be. It's out, we just created it. And then we need to specify the module source path. So module source path. This will tell the module system where the code of my modules is. So as you remember, we created src for this. There you go. And now we just need to specify, in fact, which modules we need compiled. So this is done by the minus module switch. And here we're just going to specify com.example.app and com.example.utils. Right.
Specify that I want to combine all the modules in this source, or I need to make a list.
No, I think you need to explicitly specify. You may be able to use like a star, like a star, for example, the all character, but I think there should be a way, yes. I didn't check that though. Okay, so now if we ll out, we can see that here it created my two directories, so com.example.add, and in it you can see your compiled classes, so com.example.utils. You can see the module.info.java. Sorry, src. yeah, sorry. في Java. So there you go. Here you see the module.info class file, so it was compiled into a class file, and same thing, utils.class. Okay. Now that we have built them, we need to build jars, basically. So this is done using the jar command. So first of all, I'm going to compile the utils class. So I'm going to build the jar for the utils class. So this is done with -c, so create. One sec, I need to create a directory to hold my jars. There we go. So jar -c -file. -file is basically to specify what my jar is going to be called. So it's going to be under jars, and I'm going to call it com-example-utils.jar. Okay. And we also need to specify the directory the module system needs to switch into to build this jar. So in our case, it's going to be out and com.example.utils and dot. In fact, what we're doing here is we're telling the jar to actually go here and build the jar of this module. So if we ll jars, we see that it created my jar. We're going to do the same thing to app, but in fact here we're going to go at it a bit differently. Because as you saw, app uses the utils class, so it has a main class. So I'm going to specify what my main class is going to be. In this case, it's com.example.app, .app. And this is my main class, actually. Now, ll jars, we see that my jar was created. Now, if I want to run my jar, simple enough. In Java, I need to add to the module path jars, because this is where my jar is contained. And I just need to specify the module I need to run, which is going to be com.example.app. I don't need to specify the class, of course, and I need to pass to it an argument, because it takes an argument. So it's going to be hello Java beats. Where? Yeah, you're right. Yes, so let's just go over the elements again. So the module path is going to be jars, because that's where my jars are. I need to specify the modules. It's com.example.app. And since I specified a main class for it in the command above, normally it won't fail. Normally. And it didn't. So here you see, hello Jug peeps, it padded to its left some zeros. Okay, very simple. So basically this is how you build a module, this is how you build the modular jar. And now there's one more thing. If you remember, we mentioned in the presentation that you can build your own custom runtime image. So your own custom smaller runtime image than the one that JDK provides. If we go right now to see JDK 10, just to see how big the folder is, nothing special. Okay, so you see it's 522 megabytes, which is quite large. Now, if I want to assemble my own custom runtime image with just these two modules, the ones I just created, I'm going to use something called JLink. So JLink was introduced with Java 9, the Java linker. Okay, so I need to specify the module path, of course. and it's going to be jars again, because that's where my jars are. I need to specify what my modules are. So I need to add modules, basically. And the two modules I'm going to add are com.example.utils, com.example.app. These are my two modules. And then I need to actually give it a runner. This is an optional command, in fact. The runner will basically enable you to run the command I just ran, so java -jar to pass to it the argument, directly with one click. You don't have to specify the module, the class, anything. So it's with the -- launcher switch, and I'm just gonna call it, I'm just gonna call it runner, and I'm gonna pass to it which module. So in our case, it's gonna be the app module. And finally, I need to output this somewhere. In my case, I'm gonna call it standalone app. Okay, boom. Takes a bit of time, and here we see standalone app. So notice standalone app, it looks like your normal JDK file, so bin, conf, include, legal, all of those. And if you go inside bin, you see it has its own custom Java. Alright, and we have the runner we just created, so if I run the runner, directly I'm going to pass to the argument. You see that, well, it executed normally. So here you don't have to specify the class anymore, you don't have to do all of the, well, let's call it tedious work you do now. And in fact, if we check the size of our standalone app, you're going to notice it's much smaller than the JDK we use now. So it's standalone app, there, 37 megabytes. 37 megabytes, you have a Java application up and running. So, just as a small recap of what we did, we built two modules, we compiled them, we packaged them as modular jars, and we built a standalone application from these modular jars, and we executed the application. Okay, that's about it for my demo. I'll leave the floor now to Mahmoud to continue with the presentation.
Let's see how this can happen in the code. So we're saying that two modules cannot share the same package if they interfere with each other. Let's see how this can occur in the code that was written earlier by Mark. So I have the same example with the same directory structure. I have two modules inside it, com.example.app, com.example.utils. And let's change com.example.app so that we have a package com.example.utils shared also by the other modules. So I'm going to create a directory called utils, and we'll copy the app.java source file to the directory utils, and obviously I will have to change the source file, the package declaration in it, so I have to declare it as com.example.utils. And now let's try to compile the example to see what error we can get using Java C. I think I have to go one level up again, and let's try now to compile this example. Okay, package exists in another module. That's exactly the error we were expecting.
So again, you have two projects. You have app and utils. App depends on utils, and inside app, you have the main application, the main class. So let's first modularize utils. We're going bottom up, so we want to modularize utils before app. Okay. So we go to utils, how do we modularize an application? We need to create a module info.java. Okay, this is what we mean by modularize. Means that we want to create a module info. Now, one cool thing that you can do is that if you want to know, for example, actually, let me go to this point later. But let's now create module info.java. So I'm going to say module com.example.utils, and it exports com.example.utils. If you find any mistake, please correct me. So now you can compile this code. You can say Java C. I'm going to compile it into directory classes. I'm going to compile module info and the other classes. Okay, so I compiled them. Now I have my classes directory, and the module info is compiled to a class file, module info.class. It follows the same hierarchy as the source directory. Let's now create a jar file. Okay, so I'm creating a jar file called utils.jar and containing the classes and the directory classes. So now I created the jar file. Now let's compile the app directory, which is dependent on utils. Let's do the same thing. We say java c minus d classes. Okay. It fails. Well, we have to add a dependency on utils. We're using the class path here. Minus cp, it's class path. So we compiled app.jar. Let's create the jar now. Create verbose. We specify the file name app.jar, and we say the classes in the jar are coming from the classes directory. So now we have app.jar. So what we can do now is that we can try to run this jar app.jar, and we give it the main class. And we can also, for this to work, we need to specify the module path that contains the module utils.jar that we created before. So module path will be, in this case, utils, and we specify add modules com.example.utils. Oh, okay. Let me. I think here you have a conflict between two modules using the same. So you have utils.jar, which defines a module, and you have the classes. So let me remove for now the classes. Let me rerun this again. Could not find or load class sample.app. Is it called to sample.app? Well, okay. وين هو؟ ليش؟ No, it's not a module. We didn't modularize it.
App is not a module.
Let me check if source. It's not okay. Okay, so the main class is actually this. Okay, so we were able to run an application, the main application, which is app, without modularizing it, but by only modularizing the module its dependency, which is units. I'm going to switch to another demo called top-down. Okay, I have an application, but this time the utils class that contains this left path utility, let's assume that we are going to use a third party to do this left path. So we are going to use Guava, which is a third party from Google, to do the left pad. So I'm doing this just to show that in this case, you cannot wait for Google to modularize Guava. You want to modularize your code even without Guava being modularized. So what can you do in this case? You can compile. I'm going to run the same compilation commands, store it in classes, compile com.exam. Actually, first we have to, like we said, we want to modularize apps, so we have to create module-info. So we go under source, we create module info.jar.java. And what will this module require? It requires Guava. So what we will do is that we will make Guava an automatic module. So now we can require Guava. So let's assume that we can name it as follows, and that's it. It doesn't export any package because it's it's an application. It's not a third party. Actually, I just renamed the file so that the module is correct because the module relies on the file name. So if I compile now, I compile the module info and the other classes. But for this case, I need to say it won't work because it requires Guava. So we need to add Guava on the module path. Like we said, to make it an automatic module, we have to add it on the module path. First, we specify the module path, which is the lib folder. And we add for some reason it's not able to see Guava. Oh, do they have a manifest? Let me check first if in lib folder. So I unzipped the Guava file. Let me check if they have. Okay. So you see here so Google, they didn't modularize Guava, but at least they did something nice. They added automatic module name. So now I have to change the module info and say com.google.com, I think. Okay, so if I try to compile this again, hopefully that should work. Okay, finally. So now I can compile again the jar. I compile the classes. Let me create a jar using create verbose -- file app.jar, and I give it C classes. It created the jar, and now I can run java minus add minus module path. I give it the lib folder. I say add module, or I just specify the module in this case that we want to run, which is com.example. Actually, let me move the jar that I compiled to the lib folder so that I have everything on the module path. If I now run minus module path, specify lib folder, and minus module com.example.app, specify hello. Yeah, I have to specify the class name com.example.app, and now it works.